Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case, looking at the latest interview, doing an analysis of it in regards to Jack Newton, everything that he's had to say. I've got like bullet points here, color coded, and a lot of it is in green, which basically means it's kind of new to me and it might be new to you. Whether it has been said before or not, it's the first time I've heard of it. But then also, there are some key points, contradictions, changes of information and stories along the way, which may be a pattern, what you've seen with time when it comes to Jack Newton and retelling and recounting what went on with who, etc. Well, today I'm going to be doing an analysis summary of that full-length interview, the recent one from Partners in True Crime, in which you had Ashley and Robin, part of the Presgrove family, who were listening in and reacting to the interview of Jack. So it was kind of like an interview reaction to an interview within an interview video. Kind of unique, different. As for it not being live, or at least in the moment with the Presgrove family present, it was done in the background previously. I don't know how far it dates back to in recent time or so, but I'm just going to read out to you the bullet points in the order of what was said, and I'm going to react to it, share my thoughts, analysis, as much as I can, right? And for anyone that is watching during this live premiere, you can share your thoughts, opinions and reactions in the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen. And at any point, if you do want to react, share your thoughts, discussions, questions, leave them down below under this video in the comment section. You'll also find a pinned comment by me with some additional links if you do want to support this channel. And if you simply want to catch up on recent coverage of my videos to do with the case, including last night where we took a look at one of the supposed partygoers that lives there, known as Logan, her sharing her thoughts, her disgust, sickening feels to do with people coming on down, trespassing, even though it's supposedly not trespassing. You want to learn more about that and their reaction to my video? Well, be sure to catch up. Top right corner of the screen, it will be available to watch up there on the I symbol, along with the full playlist of all the coverage I've done up to now. So, with this very recent interview, it was supposed to be 2 hours long, turned out to be about 1 hour 45 minutes. But nevertheless, it was still pretty long, but it was reasonable. I was thinking, do I do it part one, part two? But I think it's possible to do it all in one go. So just feel free to listen on in and let me know what you think of the situation. I might see things or interpret stuff differently. There's the odd point here and there where the odd family member within that like Partners in True Crime podcast, if you want to call it that, may have misunderstood or misinterpreted the language and wording from Jack. So I'll try and put that into perspective when we do reach that point. But nevertheless, let's just get straight into it right now. So what was mentioned at the very start by the host of the YouTube channel, Cindy Robb, they were saying how Jack was not on camera or didn't want to appear on camera because of News Nation. Was he scared or not? Who knows? As well, being on the go, working from place to place, I guess not having the correct time to sit down at this specific point with the family too. But what's interesting is it was done via a phone call. It was recorded and consent was given, and then that was relayed into this recent podcast for the family to react on and for everyone else to listen in to. Audio quality, good enough. Obviously would have been a lot better if Jack actually was in the moment, live, showing his face and talking, kind of like what Caden Pressey did. When it's over a phone call, it can sound shit at times, can't it? And then when it's relayed in a live stream, a premiere like that, it can be even worse. But luckily, it was pretty good and quite clear. And at the YouTube channel, we're using a proper microphone near to the phone, so you could hear it. a lot better than when I think of the Dylan Brown's case, when you had people calling in here and there on these silly shows and it was terrible audio, piss poor quality. At least with Partners in True Crime, it was better quality. So I thought I'd just add that in. But the concept of Jack not appearing on camera, hiding his face, then you've got some interviews we participated in, like with News Nation, where he did show his face, but he was wearing sunglasses, which, you know, outside, sunny day, blocking out the sun, the light possibly, but, you know, covering the eyes, and sometimes that can reveal a lot about a person when you look into the eyes, the pupils, whether they dilate or not, all kinds of different signs when it comes to body language. So that's interesting there. It was interesting that they said Jack not being on camera because of the News Nation interview. What does that mean exactly? The News Nation interview, to what I can remember, was where they were at the highway, he was talking, answering some questions, showing his thoughts, his knowledge about the case, and that was supposedly early on. He's wearing a hat, covering his eyes. What was so bad about the News Nation interview, which he participated in and showed his face, which ultimately led to him not wanting to appear on camera after that point? Is it because there was resistance? Was it because he was attacked after putting himself out there? I wonder. Because, you know, Caden Pressey put himself out there, in a way, attacked and kinds of resistance along the way, but, you know, he still managed. But did he do anything after that, Caden? From the looks of it, no more interviews at this moment in time, which is understandable. But how bad was it for Jack after the News Nation? Did Jack receive the same level of treatment as Caden Pressey did, and that's why they don't want to do any more interviews or at least show their face past that point? I wonder. I mean, Caden has been active since, maybe in different ways. I think people mentioned that during a live stream on a channel, whether that be in Partners in True Crime, a previous one, or another channel, that Caden and the mother Alicia Lee were in the live chat answering or leaving comments at least. So there's still activity there. But as for Jack, not to the same extent. That he might be quite vocal or in terms of text-based communication, but when it comes to showing up, showing one's presence and face, doesn't want to do that. And, you know, not everybody wants to. Not everyone's comfortable to do so, but it's just interesting to try and work out as to what happened just after the News Nation interview, which led to Jack not wanting to show his face on camera ever again. How bad was it? What really happened to him? If anyone can answer it, you can leave your thoughts down below. But that's the first point that stood out to me. Second one, to do with the podcast itself, the channel, Partners in True Crime, the purpose of the videos, etc., to provide voices to everyone, such as within the case and family members possibly, and to check for the consistency. People may have participated in interviews left, right, centre and elsewhere, but they can be enabled onto this specific platform. It'll be interesting to see if the stories align, if it's consistent. The more consistent it is, the more, well, the higher the chances where it could be true, kind of like with the Caden Pressey situation, because he's been quite consistent in what he said and how it's gone about along the way when being talked. Does that apply to Jack though? I guess not. So that's a shame, but that's just an observation. Next point mentioned, the family from the family's point of view. So Robin and Ashley, they were basically saying how there's not been any new confirmed information. Nothing. Nothing huge. Now, I don't know if people find that disappointing or not, but when it comes to me, I'm thinking, oh, that is a bit disappointing. I'm not saying that they're contradicting themselves, but there's a contradiction along the way based off the articles in recent time. For example, people.com, one of the two articles that was done, which to do with Noah Presgrove and the family, I'm sure it was titled, or at least the subheading was, Closer to the Truth. Family edging so close on the verge of getting the truth, the answers, progression being made. That sounds really hopeful, doesn't it? But in terms of this just very recent interview, they're basically saying that there's not been any new information, Nothing huge, nothing really going on. But it wasn't that long ago when the articles said that the family are getting closer to the truth, that there is progress being made, and now there isn't. What the hell's going on there? So that's a level of inconsistency already. Why is the article stating that a step closer to the truth, but some of the family members are saying that nothing new has happened, nothing confirmed, nothing huge? Does anyone remember seeing that when we looked at those articles, when we looked at the language and wording? One thing I do find very interesting, and I'm skipping a bit ahead, but from start to finish, not a single mention of the private investigator Kathy Bingham. Not a single mention, although they were talking about the hat on and off, not a single mention about that eyewitness called Kayla Carter, who works at the casino, or did, when witnessing 3 guys, one confirmed to be from the party, disposing of a hat on top of a bin. No mention about that whatsoever in this entire interview. Very interesting, because it's been publicly talked about before. It was also brought up when Kathy Bingham presented herself during Partners in True Crime previous interview. It's not cropped up since, and there was an opportunity to do so. It didn't happen. So a little bit disappointing in a way, because if we're talking about that consistency, it's good for points to be brought back up once again, especially if it has been confirmed, especially if they're in connection with the family, Kathy Bingham family, Partners in True Crime. I'm just surprised it didn't come up. Let me know if anyone else is shocked by it or what. Next point mentioned. So I think this is the part where Jack ended up talking, because it's when the channel did the little introduction and said, now we're going to play the interview to everyone, including the family. Listen in, react, do what you need to do. So one of the first things mentioned, which stood out to me, the situation between Jack and his supposed girlfriend at the time, Carter Combs. When did they get together? How long had they been together for? Jack said himself for 2 weeks. 2 weeks before the party, the one that Noah attended in 2023. 2 weeks before that party, Jack Carter Combs got together, became boyfriend, girlfriend. Now, just after that, Ashley and more so Robin shaking their heads and saying, no, it wasn't 2 weeks before, it was actually months. Months before that they were together. They knew each other, they were close. So why would Jack be minimising the length of time he's known her for, or at least been in a relationship with that length of time, when the family of Presgrove are saying it's been longer than that? Not 2 weeks, but months, or at least a month onwards. Why is the point in minimising it? Why does it matter so much? So that was kind of interesting. Next one, talk about dating a lot of girls. Jack's response to that question provided by the host was, I don't know. So Jack doesn't know about the situation of people from the party and like Noah dating lots of people, past the parcel, on and off. But there is a contradiction to that later on when it comes to Noah Presgrove and who he hung around and how he interacted with the opposite gender. So look out for that, contradictions there. Next point, Jack mentioned how there was no, well, not that Jack said it himself, he kind of just didn't really, no, he did mention it, I'm sure I mentioned it in quotes. Jack said about no argument being on Saturday. It just wasn't really acknowledged. No real argument Saturday, and that's when it caught the attention of the family members, who were kind of surprised that it was excluded, neglected, denied. So why is this argument, even if it's a small scale one, why was it not acknowledged by Jack? Why has it been like ruled out? Bit weird. Even if it didn't ultimately lead to Noah walking off and it was resolved, why is it being left out? I mean, when it came to Caden Pressey, Caden didn't mention anything about it, but if he didn't see or hear it, then how can he talk about it? He didn't witness it, but Jack would have witnessed it because he was within the argument, because it was between Noah and Jack. And it has been mentioned before. Jack even mentioned it himself, that they did have an argument. It wasn't that bad. It was resolved. They cried and hugged one another. Seems a bit overdramatic, the whole situation to do with girl trouble or so. Right. Exactly with which girls wasn't exactly revealed. But yeah, it's interesting how Jack was saying at the time there was an argument. But in this recent interview, he didn't acknowledge that there was an argument on Saturday. So that's a bit weird because it's kind of a significant event. You don't just easily forget about it, right? But yeah, that was the next point. Moving on. This is to do with Avery at the time, and this would have been Monday morning. Avery saying, in quotes, which was relayed on from one of the hosts, I think it was Rob, is his name Rob, on the YouTube channel, saying how Avery said along the lines of, "I will kill you if you say that to me," in response to Noah. Because there's supposedly that argument between Noah Presgrove and Avery when it came to the sleeping arrangements Monday morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning onwards or so, when Noah wanted to sleep in the bedroom, in the bed, with Avery, I'm guessing, at least in the bed, and Avery wouldn't allow it. Noah supposedly got mad, which seems hard to believe, but that's how the story's gone. And then Noah ended up calling Avery certain things, like a fat beep, and Avery wasn't too pleased with that and said, "I'll kill you if you say that to me." I mean, at the time, not anticipating what would happen afterwards with Noah, but when you look back retrospectively now, poor choice of words, but they're not to know at the time. Kind of like the Isaac Rojas situation when people misinterpreted that, where it sounded like he's going to kill Noah, but Isaac was actually saying it to Brylan, saying, not saying, "I'll kill you," but "that will kill you," in whatever activity they were doing at the time. You saw the eye contact being made, not towards Noah, but towards Brylan. So there can be misinterpretations along the way, and that certain words and lines will hold more weight afterwards when you look back retrospectively. In the moment of when it's said, it might not be truly meant, right? People can say, "I'll kill you." You know, more so friends are friends, people that you know one another, brother, sister, little argument here and there. It's not literally meant, it's not going to hold much weight after that. If it's with a stranger and someone said that, you'd treat it more as a death threat and it'd be more worrying, and you might follow it up with police or so. So I just thought I'd mention that. But if Avery did hold a grudge or so, did she get anyone else to kill Noah, as in like revenge? But surely Avery would have been named, called, or maybe taken the piss out of, and other people times in the past, and how would Avery react there? So the psychological, emotional reactions and response to these different actions, what was that attitude like in the past when she was teased, or if there was any insults thrown about? Does she always say to people, "I'll kill you," or what? It's like with the Carter Combs situation where she ended up doing that private DM to an individual in the public eye saying, you know, "I'm going to beat the beep out of you." And that's in recent time. Not exactly the best choice of language. But when you tie it with all these different party goers, or those that know the party goers, friends of friends, or parents, they all seem to come out with a form of threatening language at some point in 2024 or 2023. And considering this whole case is a possible murder situation or a form of true crime, and all the different lines and words are, "Oh, I'll kill you, I'm coming after you. If we were responsible, we'd have done a better job." Why are people using all this language and wording? You're just digging yourself into a hole. You're making yourself look dodgy. I don't know why people do that to themselves, especially if they claim to be innocent. You do everything and anything possible to maintain that image and not to tarnish your name or make yourself look dodgy. But that's what people have done. Now, in the moment before the death of Noah, when certain lines or words are said, they might not hold as much weight at the time because it's just heat of the moment, it's casual talk possibly. But things that are said after or around the time of Noah's death, then you might look into more intensely and concentrate on. That's just my way of looking at it. Moving on though, to do with Jack, Jack himself, when answering questions, he said he went to bed 2 in the morning, 2 a.m. Monday. And obviously people, family members nodding their heads saying, nope, no, that's a lie, because in terms of what Jack has said, 1 minute he said he went to sleep at 1 in the morning, then a bit later, then 2, and then whatever. It's all over the place. The times keep changing along the way. And what was also mentioned by the family members was that the father, known as Victor Presgrove, was directly told by Jack that him, Jack, and Carter Combs went to sleep at 11 p.m. Sunday night, which, you know, that's like a reasonable time for when you're going to sleep. But considering that there was a party going on and you're going to sleep at 11 p.m. Sunday, when Monday the party was supposedly still ongoing, kind of interesting. But the only key thing mentioned there was that when it came to Victor being told by Jack, it was a consistent story. It never changed. That was the only thing he heard Jack tell him, about 11 p.m. Jack and Carter going to sleep at the same time together. And that would make sense. Boyfriend, girlfriend, being close, being in the same room, normal, right? But as for other people, other family members, and even those online that have been told from Jack's point of view of the sleeping times and arrangements, it's differed over time. How can you get so mixed up? It's funny how people in the background are quick to call out Caden and say maybe his timeline, maybe his time recollections are wrong, and it wasn't 5:15, it was 6:15 onwards. But what about Jack slipping up with all the timestamps of when one went to sleep? There's a difference between going to sleep at 2300 hours Sunday night and then going to sleep 2 in the morning on Monday. There's a bit of a difference in timing, like hours in difference. Now maybe visually it doesn't look that much of a contrast, because when it's nighttime past midnight it's dark, when it's early hours of the morning depending on the time of the season it's dark. Doesn't really change too much that, but the timing does. A few hours difference, you know, getting that mixed up is a pretty big deal. And I wouldn't say I've seen from the perspective of those connected with Jack or those that are friends with Jack, older, younger, whether they have acknowledged, you know, the mishaps with the time recollections of going to sleep, how it's changed with time. People don't seem to be critical when it comes to Jack, but they're definitely critical when it comes to Caden. Seems a little bit one-sided, maybe a bit biased. And when I'm saying people, I'm talking about those within the case, the opposition, if you want to call it like that. Because I know there'll be people in the community that will always misunderstand my language and get over emotional, and we don't need that bollocks going on, do we? So I thought I'd just be very clear right on the spot. But yeah, the sleeping situations have differed with time. No surprise there, because we've picked up on that with time. Next thing mentioned, Jack was saying how Noah Presgrove wanted to go on the fishing trip, which is interesting. I've never heard that before. But Jack was implying that because of Noah and drinking and the timing of it all, Jack didn't really plan on Noah going with him. Now, originally, Jack was supposed to be going with Carter Combs. They were going together with Caleb Newton and I guess the grandfather as well. So it's like one of those family outings, extended family. I guess Carter, if it is recent, being introduced to Caleb and all hanging out together, a bit more of a closer bond, if you want to call it like that, instead of Noah tagging along as a, what do you call it, a third wheel or something. Maybe that's what Jack meant by didn't exactly plan on Noah coming with them. Or is it because Jack didn't want Noah to come on the fishing trip for other reasons? How do you interpret that? Is it a big deal or not? I just find it a bit interesting because it's the first time I've ever heard this before, that Noah wanted to go on the fishing trip, but Jack wasn't really planning on Noah coming. Was that discussed about at the party or before that? Was Noah made aware that Jack didn't want him there exactly? I wonder. Next point mentioned, Jack was going on about how everyone was awake at 2 in the morning, Monday onwards. Besides himself, he was claiming to be asleep. But that's interesting because at 2 in the morning, that's when Caden said he went to sleep. And just before going to sleep, he saw Jack awake and the rest awake. Everyone that was there. So 2 different sides going on, right? Jack saying, oh, he's going to sleep at 2 in the morning on Monday and everyone else is awake. But then Caden saying he was the one that was going to sleep and everyone else was awake. It's like mirrored perspectives, but by different people. That's really weird. Similar situation scenario, but reversed in terms of who was asleep and who wasn't. So Caden says he was going to sleep at 2 in the morning, but everyone else was awake. But Jack is saying that he went to sleep 2 in the morning and everyone was awake, including Caden. That's weird, in my opinion there. But supposedly that's a lie from, you know, when we look at the consistency with Caden Pressey from the looks of it. And, you know, when a person starts lying or switching and changing a story so much, anything else that comes out of their mouth afterwards, there's a level of doubt. And there could be some truth within it. There could come a time where it's really important and there's the truth and it could reveal some important answers. But by then, people have trust issues and they don't know what to believe. So some have dug themselves into a hole. So if certain people complain in the future and say, why does no one believe me? It's because of how you presented yourself in the early days. It wasn't a good look. And then that carries on over with time. It's like normal human reactions and responses, right? So next point mentioned, Jack said Jack said he was asleep, but Carter Combs was woken up at some point, no time directly given, when Noah came into the room and took the keys. Now, by then, was Jack's gun locked in his vehicle outside? Maybe. Well, I don't think Noah would have known. Do you think Noah, if he did know, could have done a prank and ended up stealing Jack's gun as well? It didn't happen, but if Noah does prank about, could he have done that as well? Who knows? So how true is all this? Well, in this moment, Jack's basically talking about from what he's been told, from what other people have said, because he was asleep at a point. But Carter Combs, who was with Jack, asleep because they're together in the same room, Carter was awoken by the presence of Noah getting the keys, stealing, borrowing, whatever you want to call it, the keys to the ATV or the side-by-side, which then led to the side-by-side incident where it rolled over. Okay? During this going on, originally Caden was saying how he was asleep, so Caden wouldn't have seen or heard any of this. That's worth taking into consideration as well. Next thing mentioned, which is a key point never heard before, when it comes to Caden Pressey's cousin, the cousin is called Georgia. And the friend of Georgia, Bree or Brayley, whatever, not as relevant, but Georgia is the main focus here because that's the cousin. That's where Caden was talking about how at 22:30 on Sunday night, had to sober up to make sure he could look out for his cousin Georgia, to make sure she's safe and there's no inappropriate behaviour from any of the other partygoers, the males, etc. So that's interesting there to know the person's name. But in terms of Georgia, that she left the party before 2:42 a.m. because it was at 2:42 in the morning when Caden was woken up by his phone ringing and his mum, Alicia Lee, talking about how she picked Georgia up along the 81 highway. The reason why that's important and worth acknowledging is in recent time, the odd person on my channel was highlighting how, well, if the cousin Georgia is down the highway, and if she does get picked up at some point, and if it's near to where Noah's body was at, is there a link? Could it have tied in with Noah being killed somehow? Well, in terms of the timing of it all, and it's not really changed since, that Noah left the property, left the party at 3:30 in the morning, and with Georgia leaving the party hours before at about an hour before at 2:40, before 2:42, which could be a few hours difference, and at 2:42 exactly, Alicia, the mother of Ken Pressey, picking up Georgia, the cousin of Caden's, and then taking him back home. This all happened basically before Noah wandered off. So Noah was still at the party when Georgia left earlier and when Georgia was picked up by Alicia Lee and taken back home. So there doesn't seem to be a link there with the death of Noah. So that kind of rules that out in terms of the timing. That's why it's important to clear that up right now. Then another point that was mentioned after in the interview, or the pre-recorded interview, Jack said how everyone took a shower and then, you know, wind down to go to sleep Monday morning. Interesting, everyone took a shower. First time I've heard that before. And you could say, why is it such a big deal? There's nothing wrong with taking a shower. That's what people normally do, whether that be morning time, night time, or both. It is what it is. Just because it's never been mentioned before. Only now. Interesting. To say that everyone took a shower, and I'm not too sure if it's mentioned later on in the notes, but I'll just say it in advance in case I forget. Jack did say that the guys from the side-by-side rollover also had a wash as well, besides Noah. But in what order did it all happen in? I'm guessing Noah had his wash first, and then the other guys did, and then everyone else. So there's a bit of an order to it. How many people in total, though, were at the party at that time, and how many people had a shower? One shower, multiple people going in one at a time. That's going to take some time, isn't it? Depending how long each person has a wash for. A bit of a time period, a time frame. But it's interesting to know that other people, especially those supposedly in the rollover, had a wash too. Because how it was presented originally, that it was only Noah. Noah had a wash. Noah was escorted. No one else did. No one else was washed. Why was Noah given the special kingdom treatment? But that doesn't seem to be the case here, because everybody equally had a wash, whether they were dirty or not, to freshen up, to get ready to go to sleep. Sounds a bit more normal, that, I guess. But there wasn't exactly a heavy focus on these particular events, whether that be the argument being neglected on Saturday, which Jack didn't really acknowledge, whether it be the shower situation or the side-by-side incident. Yeah, questions were briefly asked about it, but not enough given. And what I would say early on in this interview, it sounded a little bit stiff and robotic. It's like AI generated, you know, Jack's voice, a lot of pauses. I don't know. Going on for quite a bit. I don't know. And maybe he warmed up later on when talking about other stuff and things he was more confident in. But I'm not saying this, but anyone watching right now, would you say there was a correlation with, at any point when Jack was talking about third-party information from what he's been told about, did he stutter and stumble more on those points and say he didn't know and cut off at times, compared to when he was talking about stuff he knew directly and what he was aware of himself? Was there a difference in his recall ability, how he presents himself, how he executes the wording and language? Did it differ between talking about third-party information, what he's been told, compared to information that he knew firsthand? Was there a difference? Did you pick up on it? I did notice that, you know, on and off, the language and wording, the cutting off, the pauses, I don't know, kind of undoing what he just previously said. Is that because he was nervous, or is it because he was uncomfortable? Is it because he's a bit rusty when it comes to these type of interviews? He's not done it for a long time. I mean, it could be all kinds of reasons. I mean, like when it came to Caden Pressey, he did a good job, or did as best as he could. But you could argue and say certain language and wording was a bit confusing and it didn't quite correlate to what we've heard previously. But in the end, it did make sense. But at the time, how one executes it, it wasn't exactly clear. But it is what it is. You can't expect people to be perfect in the moment. And I think that's what the host on the YouTube channel were getting at, saying how maybe certain recollections, memories and events could be slightly impaired by the time that's passed by since nearly a year on or so. It could be difficult for the likes of Jack and others to recall stuff, especially sensitive and traumatic events, and sometimes trauma can impact people's memory. So there was acknowledging that, which is just establishing balance, which is the right thing to do. But just wanted to talk about that. Next point we probably should move on to before we stick around too long. Jack was going on about how Noah asked another girl and wanting to sleep in her bed. That's never been mentioned before. The family themselves, Robin, Ashley also brought it up. They've not heard that in particular. The original story of Noah approaching Avery wanting to sleep in a bedroom and it being rejected, but the offer being able to sleep on the floor, and Noah not being satisfied with that and getting frustrated, and then things escalating from there and storming off supposedly. Yeah, we've heard that time and time again. What I will say is though, and it's important to mention, in so many of my videos in the past, I was wording it as Noah went in both rooms, or went in one of the rooms such as Carter Combs and asked to sleep in her bed. And then I was thinking, oh, is that why Jack got jealous and things escalated from there? Noah stabbing him in the back with his girlfriend. That's how it was worded in the past on Facebook, maybe even Reddit. That's how it was originally worded. Noah approaching Carter Combs to sleep in her room. And I've stuck with that since. And that could well be wrong, but it was never corrected. And I said it so many times, not a single person corrected it. So I just wanted to make that very clear right now. So in terms of the original story, supposedly, and what's been said since, repeated, or supposedly repeated, is that it was all to do with Avery, not Carter. Carter out of the picture in that situation. All to do with Avery in that room, wanting to sleep in that bed, maybe with that person too, and Avery not wanting that and Noah getting frustrated. But the new information that's come out to everyone just recently, because of this new interview, Jack saying that after that, Noah then went into another girl's room and asked her if he could sleep in her bed. Who is that other girl? Interesting, isn't it? Because most of the party goers, to what extent, who knows, but most of the party goers would have been sleeping on chairs or on the floor, maybe in a different room, not bedrooms. The only exception would be someone like Jack Newton. He doesn't live there, but because his girlfriend's Carter Combs and Carter Combs lived there at the time at least, it's like you've got VIP access, your house, my house, we share things, it's normal, share room, closeness, intimate, it makes sense. A partygoer who's just simply friends with a person that lives there, the chances of sleeping in the same room as them, especially in the same bed, the chances of that are probably going to be much lower. So you can understand why Jack would have a form of clearance access entry into one of the girls' rooms, because the girl lives there and Jack is seeing that girl in a relationship, so that makes sense. But it was mentioned by Jack, or at least by Robin later, that when it came to Avery, her bedroom, that there was a female friend in her room on the floor. Interesting. So Avery has the bed all to herself, as maybe you would expect normally. It's your possession, it's your thing, and anyone else wants to come on in, give a form of consent as to where you can sleep and what you can do, I get that. But when Carter is out of the picture in this talk, and Avery has denied access for Noah to get in bed, and for Noah to go elsewhere into another bedroom, who else would that be? How many rooms, how many bedrooms exist at the party house, or at least at the time? Something is telling me that if this is true, that Noah did go to a different bedroom where another girl was sleeping and asked her, what happened? How did it go? who was it? That wasn't actually cleared up. The original story being going to Avery, asking there, being rejected, Noah walking off, and then leaving the property. But because this new event has come on in, or at least has been added into the timeline without an actual time given, which came first? Did Noah go into Avery's room and ask to sleep in her bed and then rejected, and then go on to another girl's room and ask her, or was it the other way around? In which order did it happen in? And the main question is, who was that supposed other girl that had a room to themselves, besides Avery, her bedroom, and besides Carter Combe and her bedroom, right? Who else could it be? If only Carter and Avery lived in that party house and had their own private rooms, who else would have their own bedroom there? Who else lives there? Well, it just so happens recently with the post that I looked at on Facebook dating back to July 2024, Logan. I'm not going to say their last name because it's a bit of a dodgy one and I can't pronounce it and I can't even remember it. Doesn't really matter, but Logan. Oh, it might have been Logan Jernigan. Depends how you pronounce that. Sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? So LJ, Logan Journey. We'll just say it like that. Logan. Caden Pressey has referenced Logan's name as we've seen before. But Logan hasn't really come up into discussion much, has she? Logan's been talked about more within the last 2 days, including this right now, than ever before, which is interesting. And if Logan is a long-time friend of these different party goers, how come Logan has been in the dark a bit in terms of a name being talked about in stories and information? We've heard the typical Jasmine Millans, the Jack Newtons, the Caden Presseys, their names coming up over and over again. Even Mikey to an extent, and Mikey was only there one of the days, or arrived on the Sunday at least, and wasn't there that long on Monday, of course. Mikey's been talked about more than Logan, and yet Logan is more familiar with these partygoers more than Mikey is, supposedly. And yet Logan's not been talked about much. Why is that? And what about Stephanie Millan? The only other individual that's not been talked about at all. What the hell is going on there? Why hasn't Stephanie Millan's name been brought up in these different interviews and discussions? We saw those texts, whichever platform, social media it was from, Stephanie Millan, asking questions to a member of the general public, saying that, yeah, I was there at the party, I didn't see any beef, no arguments with Noah or anyone, no trouble there, no one killed him, everyone's innocent, blah, blah, blah. How come Stephanie Millan's just not been highlighted in this case? Is she forgotten about? Is it all a lie? Does anyone know? If you got answers, you can leave them down below. It's gone very, very quiet. But besides that, why did I bring up Logan's name? Because, as I said, in recent time, when I found out about it, which dates back to July 2024, Logan did a post on Facebook showing her disgust for an individual driving on down to the property, down supposedly a public road and doing a turnaround, but recording the property. No sensitive information as locations were revealed. More so, it was the news programs, the news broadcast media outlets that actually pinpointed the location of the party house. So it was a bit hypocritical of those within to get triggered by this person's visit down to the property when official news groups have put it on the map, literally, and they're not being called out. So it seems a little bit one-sided and biased. And whilst you can say, well, there's a difference between a news programme not going down there, but just talking about it digitally, and an individual physically going down there, nevertheless, that with the news programme broadcast pinpointing in the first place, that's probably what led to people possibly coming on down and passing by. So you got to look back at the root cause, and that's what some of these individuals failed to do. So it is a bit one-sided, biased, double standards, and a bit hypocritical, but it is what it is. We see that pattern with time with humans, just in general, in life, online, offline, is what it is. But during that time of when I saw that reaction by Logan, Logan was saying how, oh, on that day or on that night when that stranger came driving down the road to turn about and record our property unknown to us, I, Logan, Avery, Carter were inside of that house eating lasagna. Why is Logan there though? Implying with what she said that she lives there. Well, if she lives there, Logan, maybe Logan lived there back in 2023. And if she does, then likely she would have her own bedroom, her own privacy. So if Noah went to Avery first or last and it rejected, then Noah could go to that other girl's room, such as Logan's, and ask, was it a successful or not? I guess not, because how the story went, that when Noah asked Avery and it went wrong, words exchanged, and then Noah stormed off, went outside to cool off, and then never seen again after that. So if Noah was to approach any other person's bedroom, another girl, and say, can I sleep in your bed, such as Logan's, that must have happened first, and then Noah thought, well, I didn't get what I want there, I'll go back to Avery and make do with her, with the bed. And that's the order I'm predicting based off how the whole timeline has gone. But considering how the story has been, that there's only 2 people or so that lived there, Carter, Avery, and now Logan is putting herself into the mix of things. Why has that only been announced now? Why was it not mentioned back then? See, this is the thing, whether what they say is the truth or not. They don't exactly talk about it vocally early on. It's dragged out, it's delayed, it's mentioned at a much later point where it may suit them more. And, you know, if things were addressed much earlier on, there would have been more clarity, a better understanding. But once again, people make it harder on themselves and even make it harder on others when the masses of the public are trying to understand what's going on, right? So it's a bit problematic, that. The next point mentioned, and this is by Robin, and this is where it gets interesting with the sleeping arrangements. Robin said that Noah did sleep on Avery's floor in Avery's bedroom, basically the night before, so I'm guessing Saturday. That turns everything upside down in terms of the mentality of Noah for storming off just because he was denied access to the bed, yet he was perfectly okay with sleeping on the floor the night before. But on the Monday, oh no, or on the Sunday, Monday, whatever the fuck you want to call it, oh, now he doesn't want to sleep on the floor, but he was quite okay doing it the night before. What the hell's that all about? A bit weird. Why has Noah suddenly switched up like that, if it really did happen? But also, the other thing that turns everything upside down, considering the original story wasn't exactly cleared up and no one corrected me, even though I went on about it over and over again, more so back then, was a situation with Noah. Let me tell you the original story as in terms of how it was worded, presented, and said several times. Originally, Noah at the party arrived on the Saturday. Saturday night, argument with best friend Jack. Bad enough for Noah to leave and get back to his place of living Sunday morning. That's how it was worded. Ever since the Caden Pressey interview, what Caden was getting at was everything was normal Saturday. Maybe to him, because he didn't see what actually went on. But one thing that Caden was confident with was that Sunday morning, Noah and then the rest getting together, going to Warwick, a gas station, to get breakfast. And when I heard that at the time, I was thinking, how can Noah, you know, get back to his place of living Sunday morning to wash and to have a sleep, all at the same time to have breakfast with the people who he got away from in the first place? What? But then with what Robin has said just recently about Noah sleeping in Avery's bedroom on the floor, such as on the Saturday, it makes more sense now, and it makes more sense with what Caden was getting at. As I said, language and wording is very important. 5 people could be talking about the same thing, but if they all word it differently, it can sound like different events. That's what the problem and the dysfunction is. That's why when I come along, I try and clear it up, but other people don't always. So some things are kind of a bit open-ended and loose ends need to be tied up. So I try and do that with the stuff that I do know and what I learn about. And this appears to be an example of it, that Saturday night, argument or not with Jack, it wasn't bad enough for Noah to leave. That Noah supposedly never left the property on Saturday. That Noah slept at the property in Avery's bedroom on the floor. Then Sunday morning going out with them to get breakfast at Warwick gas station. And then after that, Noah deciding to go back home to his place to have a shower, freshen up, have a sleep, and then later on in the day, called by Jack to come back down to the party. It makes more sense now, but it was hard to understand back then. But it's interesting how Noah was somewhat okay in sleeping on the floor Saturday night, but when Monday came about, oh no, I don't like that, don't want that. Some people could say, why are we jumping from Saturday night to Monday morning? What about Sunday night? Well, the reason why I'm jumping between the two is because Sunday night, whilst it was somewhat of an important time because that's where the party ramped up, Sunday night wasn't a time for sleeping, because for most part of it, the key ones that were asleep, or some claiming to be asleep, was Monday morning. And those from the party that may say the night before are possibly talking about Sunday, Monday crossover, because to them at the time, even if it was early hours of Monday, they're still treating it as Sunday night. I do it myself, but not so much when I'm talking retrospectively. So let's say tonight, when it gets later on, what day is it? Wednesday. And let's say don't go to bed until 0000 past midnight going into the next day, which would be Thursday. The time I go to sleep, I'm going to sleep in the morning of Thursday, but you don't normally say that. You'd still refer to as Wednesday night, even though literally it's the next day. You haven't gone to bed yet, so you haven't exactly concluded the night. You haven't concluded that previous day. Once you've gone to sleep, then you can count it as the day is over. But if there is an overlap as to when you go to sleep, going into the early hours of the next day, that's where there can be a bit of confusion in terms of language and wording once again. It's so damn annoying in a way, isn't it? But yeah, Saturday was a time of partying to a smaller extent, but also going to sleep at the party, and people didn't have issues with it. So it was all fine, and it was okay. But then when Sunday comes about, overlapping with Monday, when those decide to go to sleep Monday morning, treating it as Sunday night, that's when things start going a bit downhill. Did things ultimately go downhill on the Sunday onwards because of the arrival of all the other people coming along? Because Saturday, it was only the groups of individuals that know each other for a long time, the regulars, the names what we've heard of. But then Sunday, all the others, Texas boys, etc. Is that where the dysfunction started? My question to you, although it didn't happen, on the basis of scenario that everything happened the way it did, but the other guest, the other visitors on Sunday never came. So, you know, like the 30, 40 people, put them aside, and, you know, the 12 or 13 regulars that know each other Saturday till Monday, if it was just them, would Noah have still ended up dying, yes or no? Or is it the fact of the presence of the strangers to the likes of Noah, strangers to some of the other party goers that came on in who could be or are friends with Avery, and that's where it went wrong. I want to know your thoughts about that. But let's move on to the next point. From Jack's perspective, Jack was going about, lied about, oh yeah, so this was just adding on from earlier to do with Caden Pressey's cousin, Georgia. Jack was stating that Caden Pressey's mom showed up at the party house to pick up the cousin, Georgia, and Georgia's friend. That's not true. That the mother picked up Georgia, the cousin, Caden Pressey's cousin, and the friend along the highway, never went to the party house, okay? Is that a simple mistake made by Jack? Yeah, possibly. You think of being picked up, but you didn't know the full context. You could just assume, well, normally when you get picked up from a party, you're getting picked up from where the party's taking place. But that wasn't the case here. So you can be lenient towards Jack on this point. It's not the end of the world, right? But it did need to be corrected, and that's what happened. The next thing that Jack talked about was that Noah and Logan kissed on Saturday. Robin adds on later in the video and says there was more than kissing. So basically, at the time, Noah did have a girlfriend, a 16-year-old girlfriend who did not attend the party. Noah being 19 at the time, his girlfriend being 16, underage, a minor, being realistic. Why didn't the 16-year-old girlfriend attend the party? Is that because they didn't want to? Is it because Noah didn't want them to come? Is it because of the age factor? I'm going to take that into consideration. I mean, Caden Pressey's cousin came on down because they wanted to themselves, and the friend was there too. But 15 or 16, Caden Pressey's cousin at the time, the age factor, but then different people are the same age. Some may want to go and others may not. That's understandable. But nevertheless, it makes you think, if Noah's girlfriend called, does it mention the name anywhere? Nyla, is it Nyla or Nia? Or is that the last name? I don't know, it might be mentioned elsewhere. If it is mentioned elsewhere on the notes, I'll just say it again, okay? I keep looking down because I've got to make sure I'm on the correct line. There was so much written down on the paper. Tiny text, it's very small to read. So I just want to make sure I'm at the right point and I'm not repeating myself with certain points mentioned, okay? But yeah, Jack was saying that Noah and Logan kissed on Saturday, got close. Robin implying more than kissing, bit of fiddling about. Now, you know, people can use the argument and say, well, that's what people do when they're drunk, or that's what people do at a party, whatever. But the fact that Noah had a girlfriend at the time who wasn't at the party, is that why Noah didn't want her there? So that Noah could fiddle about with other girls at the party. It's basically cheating, right? And people can say, oh, we've all done that. No, some people have standards, right? And others don't. So it's worth taking that into consideration. Not saying that because of that one particular event, that's what warranted the death of Noah. Nope. People can twist the words. People can put words into my mouth, but that's not what I've said at all. Just wanted to acknowledge that right now because I know certain humans get a bit desperate and little obsessions with me. They're like twisting, but not going to work here. Do you think it's significant, or are you shocked that Noah supposedly kissed Logan and more may have happened? All I would say is, on the basis that it did happen on the Saturday, this could explain what came about Monday morning when it said that Noah approached another girl's room and asked to sleep in her bed. Could that have been Logan? The same person that said how Logan herself was there with Avery and Carter in 2024 eating lasagna. If they're all living there at the time, if they're still living there now, Logan would have had her own bedroom if she was living there. And if Noah went to someone else's bedroom excluding Carter's, because no-go area, because of Jack. And if Logan has already kissed Noah the day before, Noah may have felt there was a connection or there was a chance to be able to sleep with her Monday morning. That kind of all ties in and makes more sense. But at any point, if that did happen or if any other intimate moments took place, did Noah ever have a conscious mind for what he was doing, considering he had a girlfriend, a partner anyway? Not a partner, a girlfriend who wasn't at the party? Did he ever consider that? You know, you'd be critical of a person like that, or anyone, especially with someone else at the time. You know, you start feeling like past the parcel, a bit dodgy, a bit messy, isn't it? Anyway, let's move on to what was it? Jack. Avery didn't allow Noah into the bed because of that kiss with Logan the day before, the night before. A level of jealousy, in a way, or ew, you know, if you've been near that person, I don't want you near me either. And I suppose it was implied that Avery didn't want Noah in bed because Avery didn't want to be messed about or seen as like the second best. Which, you know, you got some kind of self-respect. That might be why you'd have that mentality, which is healthy and normal. And what? Because Noah didn't get what he wanted. Oh, he was able to get a kiss or this and that from the other person, but when it came to this situation, oh, can't sleep here, then, oh, throw the toys out of the pram. I mean, what's the tolerance level with Noah? Well, it's been said by family members that Noah didn't get that angry over stuff, and if he needed to just take a break or out of the drama, he would distance himself and cool off, and it would be fine afterwards. So for Noah to get really angry over this and frustrated seems, what, unlikely, unusual for him to do that? Could it have been exaggerated? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts down below. The next point mentioned, Jack at Noah got around a bit. Got around meaning seen girl to girl at the party or over time, maybe. There was other talks online and maybe some friends of friends or family members kind of hinting that girls orbited around Noah being the popular one. And whilst, yeah, that can happen, if you are seeing someone but you're still messing about with others, it could be seen as disrespectful to that one individual that is, you know, with Noah. So that's just a valid observation, that's all. But this is where the contradiction comes in, right? For Jack to speak on behalf of Noah and say that Noah got around a bit, acknowledging that there was levels of intimacy with different people, all at the party or spread out over time. The earlier point mentioned by one of the hosts of the channel was, you know, with people dating a lot of girls, etc. And Jack said, I don't know. So you say you don't know about it, but you also do know that Noah has been getting about a lot. It's one or the other. Contradicted himself within a interview. You know, you can say how Jack contradicts himself or he changes the story over time. Yeah, over time can happen. Might be some exceptions or leniency. But when you start contradicting yourself and changing the story back and forth within the same day, within the same interview, one sitting, and it happens, that is a little bit concerning, right? So yeah, let's move on. Jack then goes on about mentioning a key point which has never been mentioned before, and it stands out, that it wasn't Jack the last person to see Noah wander off, even though that's how it was worded not that long ago on the people.com article in which Jack was interviewed. What Jack is now stating, it was Logan the last person to see Noah walking off into the darkness towards the highway. And I think if anyone was to see a person walking away into the darkness, especially towards the highway, there would be a room for concern. Anyone leaving and making it clear that they're leaving and via a vehicle, it may seem more normal. But when you know that someone you know is walking away on foot and they're going in the direction of a highway and they could be drunk and you could be aware of that, and you don't see that as a room of concern, that's a bit suspicious as well. unless some people were assuming that, yeah, Noah's walking away from the place, away from the party house, walking towards the highway. Well, what's nearest to the highway? Or what's before that and the railroad tracks, the crossing? It's the other building, property. That never really gets talked about. Was it in use at the party? If it was, it could understand, it would make more sense, and you could understand that certain partygoers may have not made a big deal about it at the time because they may have thought that Noah was going east towards the highway, but calling in at that house just before leaving the actual property. You know which building I'm talking about. But I don't know if that house was in use at the time, if it was accessible or not, right? It's like with, if you had a friend and they were walking away from you into a field, and at the end of the field there was a shop, you wouldn't think much of it. Oh, the person's probably just walking away because they're going over there to get to a shop. In contrast, if you had a field, nothing ahead, just pure darkness, and the person walked away from you, and you didn't hear from them after, and even in the moment you'd be thinking, should you be going over there? There's nothing over that way. It could actually be dangerous if there's a river in that direction. What other reason is there to be going over there? Just like when it comes to this situation with the party house and the property, walking away from the actual active house, walking towards a highway, which is dangerous on foot, that would be room for concern to begin with, wouldn't it? Unless there is significance with active buildings nearby which were accessible, which could explain why some people may have not thought much of it in the moment. But it's interesting how Logan's name gets brought into it all of a sudden, just like how Logan brought herself into discussions back in July of 2024 about living at the property. Oh, all new news, but why is it taking nearly a year for it to be announced? This could be considered simple stuff in terms of the story of how things played out, but it's only been mentioned now, not back then. Is it only being mentioned now because it suits and benefits people talking about it, convenient to them at the time? Or is it only being brought up now because it's false? Right? Why was it not mentioned back then? Why was Jack previously claiming, and even in that interview by people.com, that he was the last person to see Noah wander off into darkness? And yet now, and not much time has passed by since, Jack is saying that Logan, the female, is the one to last see Noah walking to the highway. Weird, isn't it? And the other question would be, why was Logan there? Did Logan follow Noah outside? Does this somehow correlate to Noah wanting to sleep in Logan's bed, being rejected, going to Avery, Avery rejecting Noah as well because of that kiss with Noah and Logan the night before, then Noah causing a bit of a scene or so, storming off, and then Logan follows Noah outside and wonders what's going on, and instead of approaching or stopping him, she just lets him walk off, and that's it. And it's like, oh well, let's go back into the house and party. And at what time did Logan see Noah walk off? Yeah, Jack said that it was at 3:30. But if it's Logan that saw Noah walk off, how would Jack know it being 3:30 then? That's what I don't get. Weird. The next point mentioned, which was by Robin as a counterpoint, Robin said that originally Jasmine Milan said that Avery Combs saw Noah walk off and then told everyone at the party inside what just happened. Well, if that happened at 3:30 and people were made aware, then that would explain Jasmine Milan coming outside onto the front porch to do a snap and say, well, Noah's missing. But in any of that moment, there was no one bit of concern. It was, oh, well, he's just wandered off. And then past the point where he didn't return back, that's when people supposedly started searching. But I've not seen enough proof or evidence of them searching about. And from what Justin Roy has said in recent time, the only reason why that's been brought up and mentioned that people started searching about to try and look for Noah, presumed missing, is because that geofence thing being talked about by authorities. So it's like people are trying to cover themselves or make themselves look like they care more and appear more innocent, I'm guessing. But, you know, what should have been done normally, if a person has walked away and you are anticipating them to return back but they didn't, and a certain amount of time has passed by and there's enough concern to start searching about in the moment or later at some point, if unsuccessful in being able to find Noah, then you would normally make a call to authorities, police, and, you know, file an official missing person report. Because for a certain period of time, at least to those innocent within the case, Noah Presgrove was a missing person up to the point of when he was found on the highway. But in a certain time frame, he was technically a missing person. He wasn't officially reported as a missing person, but if people were that concerned that they started searching about and there was no answers, someone should have made a call and reported him in as missing. That would have been the normal thing to do. If in the first place it was like, well, we didn't really think much of it, we didn't expect this to happen, just assumed that Noah made it back home, may have flagged for a ride and got back, and that's what he does, and it's happened before, nothing to see here, it's perfectly normal and fine. Well, that can explain the lack of urgency or the lack of taking it serious to report it as a missing person. But if you reverse it around how it's been stated as by some, that, yeah, searched about, couldn't find him, concerned enough to search for him, yielded no results. At that point, that's when you should panic, where it gets worse. We've searched, we can't find Noah, this is bad. But instead, to them it's, oh well, we'll call it a day. We'll assume he's okay. That's it. It must be fine. That's not how it normally works. You search in the first place because you're concerned. When you don't get answers or results, that's when you start to panic and things get worse. Take the next step, report them missing. But no, in this situation, oh, he's wandering off towards the highway. Let's just continue partying. Bit of time has passed by now. We probably should start searching for him. We can't find him. Oh well, he's probably okay. Let's just party. Seems a bit casual. As casual as the guys coming back from the highway, as Caden Pressey stated, that they went to sleep after seeing Noah's dead body. A bit casual, maybe. But it's interesting with what Robin originally said about Jasmine Millan saying that it was Avery that saw Noah walking off. So in what order did it come out? At least how I've heard it worded, from what I've seen, which won't be in the correct order, but this is just me, my perspective. Originally, Jack was the last person to see Noah walk away into the darkness, which sounds bad, doesn't it? A room for concern. And now, right now, oh, it's Logan was actually the last person to see Noah wandering off. And Robin's family member, Robin, saying that, no, it's actually Avery Combs that saw Noah wander off. Now, in really any order it could apply, okay? The reason why it could apply to any one of them is when it comes to Jack, if there was a confrontation, an argument that followed or started outside, just before Noah left or in the process of when he was leaving, it would tie in line, walking away. Jack catches him, hey, get back here, or stop, and then has it out with him verbally. As like Justin Roy said, it got very aggressive, supposedly, which sounds pretty big. I think it gets swept under the rug a little bit for Justin Roy to pass it on that there was a very aggressive argument between Jack and Noah Monday. And then after that, that's when Noah ended up dead with a bit of time in between. I think that's a big red flag, which has not been brought up enough since, which is weird. And the argument situation with Monday, that wasn't really mentioned that much. Jack didn't really acknowledge it at all in that interview, that phone call just recent. So that's also very odd as well. So some key events which tie in line with Jack excluded, not acknowledged, or a bit diminished, minimized. Yeah, very weird. But if it wasn't Jack, the last person to see Noah walking away, and it was supposedly Avery, it would make sense as well, because if in the process Noah walked out of the place, because just before that he called Avery a fat beeb, and as we saw in that story by people.com, I think, that it was Avery that chased Noah out of the house, or chased him down as Noah was walking away. Yeah, Avery could have followed Noah outside and said, hey, who do you think you are, calling me a fat beeb? Excuse me. And Noah's like, had enough, and then walks away. That would make sense as well. If it was Logan, though, why would Logan be following Noah outside? Wondering what the commotion was? Because Logan's close to Noah at the time of the party because they kissed the night before and intimate. So there's an emotional connection. And those emotions follow in the direction of where that person goes physically. Yeah. They can all link in different ways, and it's understandable as to why each person could be the last one to see Noah walk off. But supposedly, only one of them was the last individual to see Noah walk off, because all three of them weren't outside. It's not been mentioned like that yet. So that was some of the key points mentioned, right? And there's more. Let's do that right now. So it kind of quietened down in terms of making notes further on. I don't know if this paper's going to fall off. I have to bend over it because it's fallen. But to talk next, this is kind of like tying in line with the highway situation, right? The death of Noah and how that all comes about. So, despite Jack claiming to be asleep 2 in the morning, but also knowing certain things going on, and also claiming to be the last person to see Noah wander off and then changing it to Logan. Oh my God. Jack, in the interview, said that he woke up at 5:30 in the morning. I've never heard that time mentioned before, right? And Jack saying how he was looking for his hat. Now, there is a possibility that he corrected himself later where he said, oh, I left to go to the highway at 5:50 in my vehicle, my bad. My bad. Normally you say my bad if you've made a mistake, so possibly because of the language and wording when Jack said he woke up at 5:30, he meant to say 5:50. I know there's a bit of a time difference, but he did say my bad shortly after that. So maybe he made the mistake and he was correcting himself, but he didn't use the correct language and wording to correct himself. I'm just implying it that way. Maybe I'm looking ahead compared to maybe other people interpret it. But yeah, when it was mentioned about the 5:30 timestamp Monday morning waking up Jack, the family members were nodding their heads. They weren't too pleased with it. Ashley, because Ashley mentioned some key points, Ashley said, in quotes, it was Jasmine Milan that woke Jack up at 5 in the morning, not 5:30, but 5 in the morning, about Noah being missing. Right. So let's just use it, even though it may not be the truth, let's just say that Jack went to sleep 2 in the morning. From 2 to 5. Enough time has passed by, let's just put it that way. Jasmine awake all throughout, supposedly. Jasmine at 3:41 in the morning announcing with that Snapchat post that Noah is missing. It's taken from 3:41 to 5 in the morning, an hour or so passing by for Jasmine to tell best friend Jack that, oh, Noah's missing. What? Jasmine made that Snapchat post announcing that Noah was missing at 3:41. and it took an hour or so until she told Jack that Noah was missing. What? The way you could interpret that is Noah supposedly last seen 3:30 walking away, Jasmine finding out about it not long after, announcing it on Snapchat as a joke, maybe, anticipating his return, giving a bit of time for him to return back, searching in between that whilst Jack was asleep, maybe, maybe not, and then eventually thinking, you know what, at 5 in the morning, we've not seen him, something must be wrong. Let's wake up Jack about it. And then what happened then? Exactly. Because even if that was the case, woken up at 5 in the morning, and then that's when Jack decided to search about. From 5 in the morning to when? What was the next time? Well, originally Jack said 5:53 onwards to 6 in the morning approaching the highway. So it's taken an hour difference to be told 5 in the morning by Jasmine to then think, I probably should search about, but you know what? Let's give it an hour. Let's drag it out a bit more, and then I'll go out and search, supposedly. That's how you could interpret it in terms of the language here. So that just sounds very dodgy. The next point mentioned, and it's kind of jumping about all over the place, but Ashley said that Renee Milan said that when Renee got there, no time given, but at least when Caden Pressey provided it, it was 6:30 a.m. Renee Milan said that Avery and Carter Combs were cleaning up cans. Weird. And that's what Ashley said. Caden Pressey himself said he was the one cleaning up the cans, the beer cans. It was his idea. He initiated that idea himself. So what's this whole talk about Avery and Carter doing that cleaning? It wasn't their idea. Caden said it was his idea, and he did it. Very interesting. Next point mentioned, Jack said that he left and went on the highway at around 5:50, and he needed a spare hat because he couldn't find his other. It was 5:53, the actual text message, what we've seen between Jack and his father Caleb. So it's close enough. 3 minutes out or early, doesn't matter too much. I think some people were interpreted it, whether that be from that Partners in True Crime episode, people online or elsewhere, implying it that Jack went out to the highway to look for Noah. No. In terms of the original story, Jack supposedly went out at that time, supposedly because of the fishing trip, and then along the way stopped because of what he came across on the highway. Now, it's hard to believe that considering the earlier timestamps, like 4 in the morning, Jack saying that's when Noah passed away. How would you know that if you were asleep? Things like that are very odd, like anomalies along the way, which don't really do Jack any favours, especially when it came from his mouth in the first place. Those timestamps weren't actually mentioned in the interview. Would have been interesting to see how Jack would have responded to that or what he would have had to say in defence, but yeah, just wasn't mentioned. Jack said that after 5:50, once he got down to the highway, pulled over on the east side because others were on the, west side, parked up to check out what the hell was going on. There was a body there. Jack said that there was a truck driver, Tyler, probably. The truck driver's boss, Tyler Hardy. And that's where people got confused in the video in the family. We never heard it worded like that, the truck driver and the truck driver's boss. All we've ever heard it worded as was Tyler and Tyler Hardy, 2 separate individuals who don't work for one another or work under one another. So was that Jack filling in the blanks, or does he know more? Who knows? And Jack also said that there was a white car on the highway. That's come up in the past in discussions, and some people were saying that, oh, that white car could have been Carter Combs or Avery's or someone from the party, but they weren't around long enough and they drove away. What the hell's going on there? I don't know personally. bit dodgy? Was it just a passerby who temporarily parked up to see what was going on to help out and then move on after once things were being cleared up or somewhat resolved? Maybe. But it's just interesting that no mention by Jack of Caden being there once Jack got there. Just wanted to point that out because it does come up a bit later in other ways. So if that was at 5:50, round it up to 6 in the morning, basically, or close to 6 in the morning, or at least approaching 6 in the morning, Jack said that he went back to the house to let people know the news, to let everyone know what's happened to Noah around 6 in the morning. The timing is the problem, but in terms of the action of what he did is consistent with what's been said in the past, even by the likes of Caden, that Jack made his way back to the house to let everyone know the news. The biggest issue is the timing. Caden said that occurred at 5:15. Jack is implying that at 6 in the morning, or approaching 6 in the morning, that's when it actually happened. Who's right, who's wrong? Because one person's appearing as a liar in a way, right? All I can say is, when it comes to Jack and what he stated here, has he mentioned it in the past about 5:15, that timestamp? No. It's only been Caden Pressey. Some weeks back, when I was doing some video coverage, it was Sarah Long and more so Stevie Howard that were backing up Jack and calling out Caden's timeline wrong or incorrect. But it wasn't 5:15, it was 6:15. And if Jack is supposedly claiming around that time that he got there for the first time round, found out what happened, then made it back to the house to let everyone know, could have been around 6:15. There's consistency there. But take in mind, the likes of Sarah Long or Stevie Howard, they're not speaking about first-hand information because they weren't there at all at the time of when it, actually happened and unfolded. So what they know, or what they may think they know, it's like second or third-hand information, third-party stuff passed on to them. So they could be told lies and they could believe in it. There could be a level of biasness, brainwashing, who knows? But, when you're looking at Caden and Jack, what's said doesn't tie in. Caden says it happened at 5:15, Jack coming on down to the party house, back there to let everyone know. And then Jack saying, it's not 5:15, it was like 6 in the morning or close to that when I came on down. There's a big time difference, isn't there? But both individuals can't be right. Only one can be correct, unless there is a big misunderstanding that someone's time or clock was out, or when looking at the clock, the time was done incorrectly. I'm not going to mention anyone's name because I can imagine people getting really triggered. But as I said, an event like this could turn everything upside down, all because of a big misunderstanding, and it would be very unfortunate, and it could give some people some ammunition down the line. So let's just see how things play out there, at least. So next point mentioned by Jack, jumping onto the polygraph test, that he had a perfect pass on the test. And the reason why he did it was because it would help clear up any rumours, as he's been told. Now, what wasn't mentioned or acknowledged was about phone pings, pinging in the area near Noah's body at a certain point. That wasn't acknowledged in the interview, and that was quite a significant talking point back then. Back then, Jack was saying how because of the phone ping, that was the main reason for doing that polygraph test, to clear things up. But it was very vague this time round when recounting why he did a polygraph test. It was just to clear up rumours. What were the rumours though? Such as the phone ping? Maybe. It wasn't acknowledged though this time round, but it was in the past by Jack. So I just thought I'd highlight that. Jack goes on and he denies changing the story about sleeping times. So the host asking Jack the questions about, you know, the sleeping times of, you know, going to bed at 11 p.m, 2300 hours, Sunday night, but then going to sleep at 2 in the morning and it changing back and forth, etc. And basically Jack was denying it. And I don't know if it's mentioned later on, but at some point Jack was basically saying how, I don't know how those family members got that time, never said it myself. There is supposedly proof, whether it be text-based, verbal, whatever, documented, that he said that. So what the hell's going on there? Is Jack so far past it that he's convinced himself that he never said this or that? I mean, like, it would have been really interesting if the host said to Jack, oh, do you remember when you said that Noah passed away 4 in the morning? How do you know when you claimed to be asleep at that time onwards? And if Jack was to say, never said that, or I don't know where that's come from, I think people are getting a bit confused, or maybe people are going through such a traumatic event that mentally it's affecting people's memories. You know, if Jack was to say something like that, and then you whipped out the screenshot of the conversation with Justin, Roy and Jack, word for word, and you showed it to Jack and said, is this your account? Yes. This is what you said? Yes. What would you have said then? You couldn't have said anything, right? So, like, if you wonder what that click was, it was my hip popping. It's a bit of a dodgy bone, but that's not really important right now. But if you pick out something that Jack has got wrong or lied about, and you try and correct him or say, why did you say this there or that at another point? And then Jack would say, I don't remember saying it, it wasn't me. You know, that's just the excuse. But if you actually backed it up with the original evidence to say, well, that's what you actually said, it would be interesting to see how he would react in a moment like that. When it came to the Dylan Rounds case and the killer, at the time treated as a suspect, James Brenner, that was in Weber County Jail, when outward calls were made to some of the family members, yeah, with the father Justin Rounds and Brenner, the conversation was okay. But when it came to Karen Rounds, the grandmother of Dylan Rounds, Karen had a go at Brenner saying, you know, you got this wrong, you got that wrong, don't know what you're talking about, we know the evidence, we know the situation and the deal. What did Brenner have to say about it in response? Oh, I'm not going to talk to you again, you can talk to my lawyers or attorney, this conversation is over. Retreating cowardly, they've been defeated. They can't say or do much more, so they run away. How would Jack react there in the Noah Presgrove case if evidence is presented of what he's said, what's been on record, what's been noted down by him, the horse's mouth? How does he react to his own stories, his own claims from the past and how it differs to now? How could he explain himself? How does he wiggle out of it? What would he do in a situation like that? Would he run away? Would he end the call? It would have been interesting to do an experiment and check, right? Anyway, moving on, next thing, Jack goes on saying that at the scene, the actual highway where Noah's body was at, Noah was only wearing one shoe. It was the Hey Dude shoe. So what the hell happened to the other shoe? That was not clarified, explained by Jack. Now, yeah, people have said that when shoes are missing or when they're falling off, that could tie in line with a hit and run or being hit by a vehicle in general because the shoes will fly off. But one shoe was still on. What happened to the other shoe? And why was only one on? That makes it even more dodgy and weird. And the fact that the hit and run situation was ruled out, does that rule out all forms of vehicular transportation methods causes of death, whether it is a hit and run or just a hit and then being disposed of? You know, I just thought I'd just add that in. So the other thing that was mentioned by Caden, in contrast to Jack, when Caden got down there at 5:20 in the morning, Caden said that Noah, was wearing the black shorts, but more importantly, was wearing the mismatched shoes, both shoes on Noah's feet. And yet Jack is claiming that there was only one shoe on Noah's foot. So what happened to the other shoe then? So supposedly it's not just the shorts that have been replaced and moved on, but a shoe as well. Where did that shoe end up? Is the shoe in the same place as to where the hat is or where the shirt is? It's really weird. Why do you need to take one shoe away exactly? Oh, the one shoe that isn't there, not on his foot, his other foot, is it at the scene or not? It's weird because although people may not agree with some of the official news reports or what's been stated by other officials or even maybe the medical examiner and that official autopsy report, in those areas, it was consistent with the shoes with what Caden saw. So why is Jack going against both sides then? Because in the autopsy report, in the news reports, it said that Noah was found naked with mismatched shoes on him. He was wearing mismatched shoes. The autopsy report talked about it. The autopsy report mentioned how Noah's shoe and the mismatched one were found on him, which had grass within the shoelace. Okay, there is still another shoe missing, which is Noah's other shoe, right? Because he only put one of his own on and then Caden Pressey's by accident or not. So it still means that Noah's other shoe must have been left at the party, but where did it go from there? Who knows? But how Jack worded it as to what he saw at the highway, Noah was only wearing one shoe. Yet Caden Pressey earlier on in the day at 5:20 said that Noah was wearing both shoes. They were mismatched, but he was wearing both and they were on his feet. The official news reports, etc., medical examiner, mismatched shoes which Noah was wearing at the time on the side of the highway. So why is Jack going off in a completely different direction, away from what Caden says, but also away from what the official people say? That is really weird. Is Jack in another world, on another planet or something? I don't know. It's a bit weird. Next one. Jack says that the other guys in the ATV had... Oh, yeah. So jumping about again, but this was the order of how it followed in, that other guys that were in the ATV had a wash besides Noah earlier on Monday when they were at the party and when they were alive, Noah specifically. Interesting, because originally it was worded as only Noah had a wash, but supposedly the other guys did as well. Would have been good to know who the other guys were, because that's kind of been left in the dark. Next thing. The ATV being sold after some time. It might have been sold after some time, but it's been claimed online that it was put up on the marketplace a day or two after the death of Noah, which was seen as a bit suspicious. But it wasn't sold until a few months later or so. So there's that. Next thing mentioned, and this is actually by Cindy, a key point by her, one of the persons from the YouTube channel, says that Caden and another person said that Noah was wearing the black shorts when they got there at the highway, at the scene. Well, we've seen it from what Caden has said, that Noah was wearing black shorts. Jack saying there were white shorts, and Tyler Hardy saying that there were shorts, but they just weren't on his body. Great, isn't it? Where's the consistency within it? There isn't any. But luckily, besides Caden, another person that was with Caden at the time has confirmed with consistency that Noah was wearing shorts and they were black. And that's what Cindy has said, because Cindy and Rob reached out to that other person that was with Caden at the time of the highway. So that's basically either what Mikey has said, Brylan, or Isaac. One of those three guys has said the same thing as Caden, because they were there at the highway. Interesting, isn't it? A bit of consistency regarding it individually. You need more of that within the case overall. It would help a lot. But let's just move on. Talking about the shorts, Rob, the other host, the guy, says that the original ones, Noah's black shorts, were ripped and had a burn mark in them. possibilities from what the family said that the burn mark could be from a family member in the past, but in terms of the condition that the shorts were in, ripped, is that normal? Is that really normal? And yet, okay, they were handed over to the brother Dalen Presgrove afterwards. They were already washed before. Dalen supposedly washed them himself, not knowing the possible consequences, but it wouldn't be his fault because you wouldn't know at the time, but more so if they were washed before him, then he wasn't to blame or at fault. But the black shorts were actually handed over by Jack, and I think that mentions it next. Yeah, Robin says that Jack gave the black shorts to Dalen Presgrove, and that was confirmed. Okay. Handing them back. Was that the right thing to do? If they were there at the scene, worn at the time of Noah's death, they shouldn't have just been casually handed back. They should have been handed to the police. And they shouldn't have been washed at any point. But if someone like Dalen is in the dark about it, you wouldn't know. But those that do know, who may have washed them earlier, shouldn't have. But if it's convenient for them, they would wash them. Interesting. But what I think that really stands out is the condition of the clothing. Because the original report was, oh, no, visual or any indication of damage to any clothing, and that the shorts that were present nearby, the white shorts, which were supposedly there to replace the black shorts, but not actually put onto Noah's body, actually chucked in the middle of the road, which is a bit weird, and then later gathered and followed up by the side, they weren't damaged whatsoever. How strange. I wonder why. Maybe it's because Noah wasn't wearing them for that long, if not never wore them to begin with, or at least never wore them at the time of when he died, right? And depending how he died, whatever that may be, damage could be caused along the way in terms of any clothing he was wearing, but if those white shorts were never on him at the time, then there wouldn't have been damage. It's pretty common sense. The fact that a pair of bloody black shorts, which Noah wore at a point in time, were ripped, that's pretty eye-opening, isn't it? My question is, at what point did his shorts rip, the black ones? Did they rip, tear, because of that side-by-side rollover? And if not that, because Noah was wearing the black shorts, as like Caden said at the scene, but likely Noah would have been wearing them just before that when he died, in whatever way possible. If he was killed, if that's what happened to Noah, we talk about the injuries sustained up top, possible golf club being used, the butt of a rifle, the stock of it, whacked on, kicked, punched, or attacked with other tools, instruments, causing the scalp to rip back, and broken neck and broken ribs. Right. But can blunt instruments, blunt objects like that cause pants to tear? Why would the pants, the shorts I should say, why should the black shorts be ripped? What caused that? The fact that from the autopsy and what was said that there was like grazes or scrapes on one of the cheeks of his bottoms, is that what correlates to the shorts being ripped? That would imply friction. So could that reinforce that Noah fell out of a moving vehicle and made contact with the ground and died on the spot, but as he was somehow being dragged along, or as he fell, the momentum and rolling, he scraped across the ground, and that's what caused the shorts to tear? It depends how torn the shorts are. Shredded or just a slight rip? It wasn't exactly made clear, but clearly visible damage to the shorts that Noah was wearing at the party and up to the point of when he died. What caused the damage to the shorts? Forget about the white ones. Okay, white ones not damaged. Well, if he wasn't wearing them at the time of when it happened, of course they're not going to be damaged. And if they were replaced post-death, of course they're going to be in good condition. It's quite obvious that, isn't it? But what do you think caused the shorts, the black ones, to rip, to tear? What could have caused that? Did it only happen when Noah may have been dumped along the highway? But if you were dumped, you're not just suddenly going to get shredded like shorts. More likely that if you was in a moving vehicle and you were chucked out of the moving vehicle, hit the ground and rolled a few times and scraped along. Maybe that could cause the friction and the tearing of the shorts. That's the only other way I can think of it, right? So let me know your thoughts down below. The next thing mentioned by Robin is that the Noah's hat, Noah's wallet, shoe, the other one, not the one at the highway, but wherever the other one is, the shirt have not been returned. But it's been said by Caleb Jack that they handed those items out, the hat, the shirt and the shoe, to friends as mementos. What gives the right for Caleb and Jack to dish out personal possessions of Noah when the family should have the final say, because the family are the family of Noah? And yet Caleb and Jack, not related by blood to Noah, get the final say. Doesn't seem to be correct. That seems a bit backwards. Next point mentioned, Jack was going on about how oh yeah, so this is almost like referring back to that scenario of Jack making his way back to the party house, whether that be 5:15 by Caden or 6 in the morning roundabout, as Jack said himself. Whichever time, Jack ended up saying that when he got to the house, he told Carter Combs and Avery, but he didn't burst through the door and announce it to everyone in the moment as like what Caden has talked about. But Jack did say earlier on in the interview that he made it back to the party house and he made everyone aware as to what's happened. But now, later on in the interview, he's saying that he went in quietly. He went to Carter Combs first, the girlfriend, to say what's happened and, you know, oh, how do I do this? How do I announce it? And then shortly afterwards, he's crying, and Avery is supposedly on the couch asleep or just resting, and then sees Jack crying and then asks Jack what's wrong, and then Jack responds about the death of Noah. It seems a bit of a change, doesn't it? So first of all, early on, Jack saying how, oh yeah, I made it back and I told everyone just like that, boom. And now Jack saying, I made my way back and I slowly told each person one by one, or I only told a couple of people because I didn't know how to explain myself. So he's contradicting himself within a single sitting of an interview. That's even worse, isn't it? So yeah, anything else? Didn't make a big announcement. No, he didn't, from what's been worded. But then this is where the family, or at least Ashley, gets very annoyed. You can tell by her tone of voice, how she responds, her tone, a pace of voice, and you'd expect it for her to get annoyed, because you would, especially when the story's changing in the moment and you've seen it firsthand. It's not over a course of a few months where you could easily make a mistake or get the story mixed up or switch and change, but in the moment, within a single sitting of a single interview, and you've changed the story a couple of times already, and the family are witnessing it firsthand, you'd understand why the family would get annoyed. But this is the thing, Ashley misunderstood what Jack was saying, because Ashley thought what was mentioned, that Avery was crying before Jack actually revealed the death of Noah. So Avery knew about it before Jack told people. It wasn't like that. If you go back to the recording, the interview of what Jack was saying, Jack said that Avery was on the couch and Avery saw Jack crying and then asked what was wrong, and Jack responded, the death of Noah. That's how it was worded, okay? That was how it was worded by him. So, as I said, language and wording can be a bit misunderstood at times, and even the audio as well. When you're trying to listen in, it can be hard, especially when it's played on a phone, put into a microphone, then played out of a speaker or a headphone. The quality can diminish with how it spreads out. So, a little limitation there, but I just wanted to mention that. Obviously, the contradiction here is that supposedly, you know, what's Avery doing sleeping on the couch when that's where Caden was sleeping with some of the guys, Brylan, Isaac, Mikey. What's Avery doing there now? Caden never mentioned anything about Avery sleeping there. That's a bit weird and random, isn't it? But if you wanted to try and be technical and say, well, yeah, Avery wasn't sleeping on the couch at 5:15, but closer to 6 in the morning she might have been, when Jack claims to be returning back to the house at close to 6 in the morning. Maybe people changed about and moved, but Caden never mentioned any of that, so who knows what the hell's going on there. And take in mind that Avery has her own bedroom at her own house. You'd be more likely to sleep in your own bedroom in your own bed, which is more comfy than sleeping on a chair outside in a different room. So it's very weird, that, isn't it? Next thing mentioned, yeah, Avery on the couch, yeah. Jack then said about, oh yeah, when answering some questions about the golf clubs, because that's a very important discussion, isn't it? Jack said that Noah took the clubs back home. When did Noah go back home, though? Well, around Sunday morning, right? That's true that, you know, because on the Saturday, Noah was down at the party for all of the day and night. He made it down there in his own vehicle. Then comes Sunday, they go out to the gas station, Warwicker, to get breakfast. I'm sure that Noah would have taken his own vehicle and headed on down with the guys in their own other vehicles to get down to get breakfast. And then Noah made his way back home. And Jack's saying that along that journey, that Noah had the golf clubs in his vehicle. But that's not the case, because Caden said, and some of the family members as well from this interview reaction, that Noah never took the golf clubs back home. He never put them back in his vehicle. It's that Saturday when Noah arrived at the party for the first time round, and he offloaded or unloaded his golf clubs bag, which borrowed from Dalen, took them to the party, took them inside, and then started playing around with them, the likes of Caden, Noah, and some of the other guys, smashing all kinds of stuff up with the clubs, messing about. And they remained there. Noah did not pick them back up and put them in his truck. They were left at the party from Saturday onwards. But Jack is claiming that Noah took the clubs back home with him on Sunday. But supposedly that's a lie. Then it moves on to about the scrap pile. It was Caden Pressey that said that when time passed by onwards post-death, at a point Caden was helping Jack at Jack's place of living round the back where the scrap pile was at. And when searching about, for whatever reason, Caden came across the bag golf clubs, which later confirmed to be Dalen's, supposedly. Well, when that was mentioned, Jack replied, basically denying that there was any golf clubs in his scrap pile. He said along the words roughly, I highly doubt that there was golf clubs at the scrap pile behind my place of living. But Caden said that when he came across him at the time when rummaging through the stuff, he pointed it out to Jack, and Jack said, put that back now, put it away. A little bit defensive, isn't it? It just so happened that it wasn't just Jack and Caden there. Caden had a friend that was present there too. Now that friend wasn't named by Caden out of respect for privacy, and that friend wasn't attending at the party at any point, the one what Noah attended. But it was said by Cindy that Caden and that friend in the background has confirmed that the clubs were there. But obviously, at the time of when that event happened, and when Caden had that conversation with Dalen afterwards about it, and that realisation, I guess, heading back there, they weren't there because they were missing, moved on. Interesting. And the only other person that could have moved them on could have been Jack, or Jack told whoever about it, and then whoever moved it on or disposed of it once and for all. Does make you think. But for Jack to completely deny it and say none of that happened, even though Caden has given a clear recollection of what's happened and the friend has anonymously in the background, is 2 against 1. Again, not a good look for Jack, is it? Moving on. Jack says that everything Caden said is not true. That Caden has got it wrong, that Caden is lying. That language, that generalisation sounds so repetitive, bordering onto the lines of what Brooke Bounds Carter would say. what Stevie Howard would say, what Sarah Long, to an extent, may have said at some point. It wasn't that long ago, saw it what Stevie Howard said, Brooke Bounce Carter, stating, you know what, everything that Caden says, everything what he says about his timeline, it's all wrong. It's just all wrong. Oh, just like how Kayla Carter, the eyewitness of the casino that saw one of the partygoers disposing of a hat on a bin that looked like Noah's at whatever point, which Kathy Bingham relayed the information onto on Partners in True Crime interview, that when that came about, and that's what the eyewitness said to Kathy, and then Kathy talked about it publicly, then I did a video about it, analysing it, mirroring those points, relaying it on my channel, making sense of it, and then the eyewitness, Kathy Bingham, says, nope, you got it wrong. You got it all wrong about the hat, about the bin. You got it all wrong, Warlike Ref. What did I get wrong exactly? Make it clear. Explain yourself. Did they do that? No. What was the fucking point of it in the first place? Okay? If in that situation the eyewitness, Kayla Carter, said, Ref, you got it all wrong about the hat, the bathroom situation in the casino. Well, if I got it wrong, and I got that information from Kathy Bingham, in which Kathy Bingham reached out to you in the first place, or vice versa, and that information was passed on, and then she passed it on into the public domain, and then the public domain got a hold of it, ultimately, it comes back to you. You're saying it's wrong. That means you got it wrong, because you said it like that in the first place. Unless the private investigator got it wrong. But they shouldn't have done, because normally if there's clear communication in the background, privately, it should be very clear. Unless that's yet another failure, who knows? But what I'm getting at is, it's not just a Caden Pressey timeline where people within the case, or parents of parents, sisters or brothers, extended family, whatever, you know, comment online saying, you know what Caden says is wrong. His timeline is wrong. Everything he says is wrong. And now Jack is saying everything that Caden says is not true. Okay then. Well, now's the time to explain, to elaborate. What exactly is wrong? You're saying everything. If everything is wrong, can you correct every point? And I guess at times when they've got the opportunity to do that, they don't actually explain what's wrong, right? Now, you could argue and say that, to an extent, what Jack said in his recent interview about all the events, although he has switched and changed the story, which really doesn't help at all. In terms of how he's talked things through, it does greatly differ to what Caden has said in his timeline, but that might be Jack's way of indirectly explaining why Caden is wrong about everything, based off what Jack said in this recent interview. What should have happened, though, is when Jack said everything that Caden said, you know, is wrong, then Jack should have done a summary of everything what he said in that interview to apply it to this situation to explain why Caden's wrong, right? Could have been summarised, the nail on the head. It didn't happen. And sometimes people can say you're wrong and not back it up because secretly they know that you're right, but they don't have enough information or evidence to prove that you're wrong. But they'll just say that you're wrong to try and discredit you, and then hopefully have the fingers crossed that other people will follow in the same direction and just believe in that without the actual evidence. So it could be a desperate attempt by some out there, possibly. Repetitive language and wording, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, but not actually explaining why they're wrong or how they're wrong or when they're wrong. Yeah, it's typical. Anyway, moving on, the next important piece is Jack says, in response to the question about the breakup, the relationship status, that Jack and Carter Combs did break up temporarily, but now back together. The fact that's been mentioned publicly is interesting. In the past, people were sceptical anyway, saying that the breakup was false or it was a form of misdirection, it was a publicity stunt. Well, what did it ultimately lead to then? Not much. So that's a bit of an update there. Next thing mentioned, Jack says that he doesn't think that Noah and Phelan was serious. There we go, there's the name. So when we said about that 16-year-old minor, the girlfriend of Noah, them being together, a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old, Phelan Nevaeh, that's their full name. Now, as I said, there is proof and evidence that they were together when you look on Facebook, but in a way, because of the age, the privacy thing, even though it's a public profile, I don't want to be giving humans ammunition there, right? And things could get a bit messy. If it's like out of an adult age and beyond, it wouldn't feel as awkward to cover and talk about, right? It's like when it comes to missing person cases of younger people, like the Sebastian Rogers case. I did a little summary of it, or a little bit of coverage here and there, but it felt so awkward to do because of the way YouTube is. To say, you know, with the policies, are you covering content which involves content of younger people? And it's like, well, does that apply to missing person cases? The guidelines on YouTube aren't exactly clear, so I can't be bothered risking it. It's not worth it, right? So, yeah, Phelan Nevaeh, 16-year-old at the time, in a relationship with Noah Presgrove, but didn't attend the party. So what would Phelan have felt if she found out at the time that Noah did kiss Logan and may have done more, and even just wanted to sleep with Avery? You'd feel cheated on, wouldn't you? So just thought I'd mention that, right? But Jack is saying that at the time he didn't think that Noah and Phelan were in a serious relationship. Oh, just in a casual one, so that means you can just sleep around and do past the parcel. What? I guess the mentalities and mindsets are very different, spread out or with time with humans. Robin then goes on a different topic, says that the OHB, I think it is. So what would that be? Oklahoma Highway Bureau? I'm sure it said OHB, not P. Anyway, Robin says that the OHB said that a video of Carter Combs and Avery arguing on the front porch after Noah went missing. Well, we saw that in the Daily Mail article previously. I still need to do a singular dedicated video about it as to trying to understand what was it about. And with now knowing about the supposed who was the last person to see Noah, could it tie in line with this argument? People blaming, pointing the things at one another, like, oh, you know, because you didn't allow Noah in your bed, that's why he walked off and we may never see him again. That's all on you. You know, petty stuff like that could be the case. I just want to double check to make sure there's no hidden notes playing about. We've done it all in the correct order. Seems to be the case. Just as proof and evidence if you want to see. That's what it looks like. Okay. It's back to front because of the mirror. And the same there. And the same there. Personally, when I think of the term, oh, I'll just make some notes, I'll write it down, I find it very cringy because it reminds me of high school or college, very degenerative. I tend to make the notes in here. But when it's like word for word, important points and statements, it needs to be very accurate. So that's why I write it down, just so I don't mess up. And because there was a lot to focus in on and a lot that I've not heard before, I had to look at the notes. Because if you know what you're talking about or you've seen it several times before, you know, it's second nature, so you just look at the camera and you don't have to think or look about notes. But I didn't want to make any mistakes, so that's why I just thought I'd keep it formal. And, you know, there's like some things outside I got distracted by, so in case it looks a bit weird. So, yeah, it's kind of like relaying the key notes from that and my thoughts and response to it. If you found it interesting, feel free to like and share the video. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Do you have a headache? Me? No? It's okay. Yeah, the story's changed, a lot's turned upside down, but at least someone's story, like Caden, has remained consistent, and that's what you need, just some consistency. But then supposedly reinforced by one of the friends or one of the people at the highway who was with Caden. Either way, scrap pile or the highway scenario, another person backing up Caden. That's what you want. That's what you want to see, right? The opposition, though, failed to back one another up. They name dropped one another and throw themselves in the deep end. So lack of consistency there. But if there's like a minority that can be consistent with one another individually without any biased effect, then that's what you should seek out. So that's where we are with the case. Overall, the fact that some of the family members said that there's not been any huge news or anything like that is disappointing, considering that the People article stated that they're closer to the truth. But how it came across in that recent interview, they're not closer to the truth. So bit of a contradiction there in a way. Whether that be the article, the interview, who knows. But thanks for being patient, watching the video. We'll see what happens next or what needs to be covered next. Maybe I've got time now to catch up on older stuff and topics which are just as important and to make sense of. I didn't want to leave this too long because it's still fresh, so it should be covered. Long one, but let's say, luckily, no editing because this was done in one take, one go. That's one positive. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, whenever that is. Goodbye, good night for now.